A while back, I had a friend, we'll call him Ryan for the sake of privacy, who worked with search and rescue dogs and trained them for services with different companies. He always would tell me about the different experiences he's had and the different places he's gone. Many of those places he's gone, most people have never laid a foot on, let alone gone out and explored. He got the job out of college because it was an easy in to what he wanted to do when he got older, and his father got him the job with good pay. He never really liked doing it, and always considered it problematic whenever he would go out on a mission. Way before the stairs occurrence, it was just hard to go around and see dead bodies, lost people's campsites, etc. I have heard some brief stories on stairs in the woods, doors, etc., but have not actually seen them for myself until this time. This is a story of the one time I went to pick him up from work and he had been shaken up by something he had seen. So we both decided to go out and explore for ourselves, which was a bad idea at the end of the day. This was back in around 2011, and he had been doing some search and rescue missions in a small town near the Rockies. I don't want to give away any specifics, but it was a small town with about 1,000 residents year-round. He had only been working with this company for a year and a half and wanted to leave because this town had a very odd aura about it. I will admit, every time I went there to visit, it seemed time never went by, and everyone was robotic and left behind from the times. This could be just because it was such a small town, so most of the time I just dismissed it as such. But in September of 2011, I was staying at his house for about a week to help with home improvements with his apartment to make his job there a little less depressing. We started working on everything quite early, and when he would go to work, search and rescue, I would go work on things at the house and help clean stuff up. On most days, I took my dog on a walk, and she would always bark at the woods. She never did that back at home, so I guess now that I'm looking back, that could have also been a sign of what was going on. I went to pick up Ryan Monday night around 9 p.m. when he finished his shift that night. Every night was different because sometimes he finished earlier and sometimes he finished later than normal. He got in the car and was extremely quiet on the ride home. He told me that they were looking for a family that had gone missing the night before. They found the campsite and found all their supplies, but didn't ever find a trace of the family. Even the dogs seemed to be lost and couldn't find a trace after a certain point. His dog brought him the farthest, and he ended up in a clearing near one of the tops of the mountains. They can only search so far on foot because of the terrain. He told me that in the middle of the clearing, there were these marble stairs, perfectly clean, leading to nowhere. He said his dog started barking, but he didn't feel fear. He felt at ease. He decided to go closer to it to get a better look. The way he described it to me was when he approached it, time seemed to completely stop, and he heard his mother's voice asking him when he would be home. The thing is, his mother passed when he was 13. He said he froze, and the closer he got to it, the whiter and brighter everything looked around him. He ran back to the group and ended his shift earlier than everyone else. After I heard this, I almost thought he was going crazy from living up here, and that he probably needed more human contact. I was worried about him, but everything else seemed fine. We got back to his house and ate dinner in silence. Then he asked me if I would please come with him earlier in the morning tomorrow to just make sure it wasn't there, and that it was his imagination going wild. I told him as long as it wasn't too far, I would be happy to go with him. I thought it could help make him feel a bit better and given him some closure. Even possibly give him a reason to get out of this town. The next morning, we woke up around 9 and decided to go for the hike into the woods to see if the staircase was really there or not. Me being an extreme skeptic, I really didn't think we were going to see any stairs out there. We drove out, got our water and backpacks out of the car, and started walking. This was when he started talking about his mom, and how when she got sick, it really hurt him because his father was never nice to him. He had talked to me about this before, but never in this much detail. It gave me even more reason to feel bad for him. I knew he shouldn't be living out here all alone all this time. When we arrived to the spot, I saw it immediately. It was this massive pillared staircase that seemed to resemble marble or some other white stone. The closer I got, the more I realized it wasn't clean and sparkling, but dark and old. It looked like it had been sitting out there forever and almost felt cold. What else was there was a door at the top. It didn't match the style of everything else on the stairs. but it was a very dark oak wood, and it seemed to have pieces of moss growing inside the cracks of the door. When I looked back at Ryan, he was just staring blatantly at the door, completely blank-faced, not saying a word. I started yelling his name, but it seemed like no matter how much I yelled, the sound didn't seem to reach him. I walked back to him and started shaking him to wake him up. He just kept saying he heard his mom, and she was yelling at him to come home. He tried to push me away to go up the stairs, but I knew that was probably the worst thing for him to do now because I finally believed him. I grabbed him and pulled him away the best I could and finally got him to walk back toward the path. He woke up and told me he didn't remember anything that happened after he looked at the door. I told him, and he got even more frightened. The next few days, we didn't even talk about it because I didn't want to upset him even more. He had to go to work the next few days, and I felt terrible about it. 3 days later, they found the little girl from the abandoned campsite, but unfortunately, they only found her. Her parents and brother were still missing. She was only 6 years old. They had no idea how she survived in those temperatures for 3 days, nor what happened to her family. When they found her, Ryan called me to come out and talk to her until social services and the medics got there. They were a group of all men, and she seemed more comfortable with the female presence, as she wouldn't talk to any of the men in the search and rescue group. When I got there, she looked shaken up, but seemed perfectly healthy, without even a cut on her. The first thing I noticed were her piercing blue eyes when she looked up at me. She said, "Are you here to talk to me?" I told her, "Yes, I'm here to make you feel better till the doctors are here." After I said that, her gaze dropped, and she lost the color in her face. I asked her, "What's wrong?" She said, "My family didn't come back with me, did they?" And she started to cry. I felt horrible and said, "No, they didn't find them." She said, "Find them? They went with me into the big man's house." My heart dropped. I asked her who the big man was, and she told me her and her brother went off looking for animals when they found a staircase. They decided to climb it and go inside. She told me she didn't even think about why it was there. Keep in mind, she was only 6. She told me she thought she heard her mom and dad yelling at her to get down, and then she just remembers sleeping. I lost all the breath I had and could barely respond to her. I asked her, "Did they go up the stairs with you?" She told me she couldn't remember and started crying again. When I told Ryan, he freaked out and quit from the sector and tried to make sure the girl was safe and kept up with her for a few weeks. When we told the rest of the search and rescue group, they never believed us and said we were crazy for making a joke out of a family's disappearance. We even tried to show them where the stairs were, but when we made it to the clearing, they were gone. Nothing but the field that the stairs previously resided in. I haven't heard from the girl or where she is now, and Ryan has been working down in California trying to think about this occurrence the least he has to.